Most moms would say they want their kids to have great character, but what I try to remind everyone of is that kids aren't born naturally inclined to be thoughtful or other-centered.
You recently came out with a character training course that I would love to talk about, because this is something that is really that I'm really passionate about, is just training our kids up to be to be characters. Well, we want them to be characters too, because that's fun. But we want to train them up to have godly character.
Yes.
So
Yes.
tell me a little bit about your character training course and what you're doing with that.
Right. Well, I love that. And I just, from what you said, most moms would say they want their kids to have great character. But what I try to remind everyone of is that kids aren't born naturally inclined to be thoughtful or other-centered.
Right.
They don't have a natural bent towards self-control or, integrity. We're all born with a sin nature. And so it's up to us parents really to teach and train our kids in character. And I think there was a time generations ago that character was a really big deal and a very highly valued, important part of raising kids. But I think in the busyness of today and the competition and all the things, we do overlook that. So yes, my character training course it was really birthed out of my book, Boy Mom, because I wrote a chapter in there about character. And I tell a story about, because I believe in building character from the time kids are little, yes, but we hit a rough patch with one of my sons when he was a teenager, a young teen, probably just early 13-year-old. And I was frustrated, and he had and it wasn't the kind of character, he wasn't lying, he wasn't cheating, but he just had cruddy character. He would just walk in the room and you felt like there was a dark cloud hovering over him. And it was a critical nature. It was just blaming other people for, just that teenage thing. And I thought, I don't want to accept that this is part of being a teenager. I think there's got to be something we can do. And so after praying and talking and trying to come up with anything I could, I had this idea come to me one morning. It happened to be, I believe it was the 2nd of January. So it was a New Year thing. And I had this idea of gathering inspirational resources for my son. And I just took whatever was on the top of my head, some podcasts I was listening to, a couple websites. I had just come across a TED Talk, and I jotted these things down. And I happened to have a blank journal, and I went to my son and said, for the next 6 months, or I might have said a year, it was some big amount. I'm like, every day, in addition to your devotions, in addition to your chores and your homeschooling, you're going to spend 30 minutes listening to, watching, or reading. I gave him some book chapters, something to do with character. And then in this journal, this is how you're going to document what you do. And I gave him an assignment, and I called it, for lack of a better idea, character training.
No.
Well, there was a little bit of pushback, and are the brothers doing it? And I'm like, no, they're not. That's not your business. Life isn't fair, kid. So we started this, and I tell this story in Boy Mom, how at first, there was some pushback, but after a couple of weeks time, I saw that son documenting not just a couple words, but paragraphs, even pages of notes, because he was being inspired. And soon I found verses pinned up above his desk and quotes.
Wow.
And soon he would walk into a room with the rest of us, and it was almost like you could see he was thinking before he spoke.
Wow.
Well, there's more about that in the chapter, but because that was so life-changing for all of us, and now if I can give a little plug, that son was 13 then. He's now 19. He's a freshman in college, and last summer he launched the Truth for Youth podcast.
Oh,
and
wow.
So son has about the best character of any kids I've ever met at 19. Jonah Swanson is his name, the Truth for Youth, and he interviews all different people, and just shares a lot of encouragement for having great character and seeking God's truth and living God's truth. So all of that to say that people really responded to that chapter, and they would reach out to me and email me and say, could you tell me more about character training? I want to do this. And I decided the best way to package this would be to put it in a course where I could have interviews, some videos, some downloads, a whole lot of downloads, actually printables, things that apply to the early years through the teenage years. And of course, because what people really wanted was that resource list.
Yes.
And I laughed because I'm like, it was a terrible list. It really wasn't great. I was giving them like adult podcasts that I listened to. But of course, as I prepared this course, I came up with the most just incredibly packed list of resources that are perfect for teenage years. Everything from, again, a long list of TED Talks, websites, YouTube channels, books with great chapters. And so at the end of the course, everyone gets their list. And anyway, so the doors just opened and closed here for the fall, but there is a list for anyone interested in being notified next time the course opens.
Okay.
Okay, can I just give that website where they
Sure,
can go?
please do. Yes.
anyone wants to leave their name and email address. And also you can find out more about the course if you go to monicaswanson.com and then a /character-course. And on that page, it shows what's in the modules. It tells you a little more about it. And then if it's something that looks interesting, you can leave your name and email, and I will send you a note when the doors are going to open again.
That's great. So does the course kind of take you through the different character traits and describe them, or does it take you through different things to listen to? How does the course work?
I know, right? It was interesting because I had never seen anything like what I wanted to do. So it actually is more foundational. There's 5 main modules, and they're really like the foundations of character. So I talk, the first module is really a lot about faith, and the second one is about the influences in a kid's life, starting with the parents and us really looking at our own heart and going, okay, what kind of character are we modeling? But then also encouraging parents to really be mindful and thoughtful about the influences in their children's lives, everything from technology to the friendships to the activities they do, because really we will become like the company we keep. And there is no doubt about that. And then the third module is really practical, and it's talking about the role of adversity and how really character grows through challenges. And I think that we have a tendency as parents to try to shield our kids from adversity, to try to solve their problems and protect them. But really the best thing we can do as parents is to allow them to go through hard times, and then to show them how to do it well and how to develop character through their challenges. And I also talk a lot about decision making and really training your kids to make good choices. And there's a download about that kids can use to help them make good choices, things they can think about. So it's a lot of really practical, there's prayers for your kids, there's Bible verses that support character, but it's not as much like maybe what you've seen online where there's like a character trait, teaching that character trait. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, there's a list of character traits. You can use that. But now let's talk about the heart of this.